are going to attend.
Good morning, colleagues, and welcome to a webinar on the Market Intelligence Report 2025 from IWFM. I am Andrew Gladstone Heighton. I use he, they pronouns, and I'm delighted to have you on this webinar today. How would you like a slice of a sector that is worth 108 billion in business turnover annually and adds the great GVA of which is 65 billion. That's the FM sector. It's fascinating and never fails to be compelling to me how much the FM sector not only delivers for business but for the UK in general. And that's kind of the main theme of our webinar today. We'll be covering the release of the Market Intelligence Report, which is a very comprehensive report based on a number of data sources as well as our own internal data that we've gathered from our membership and beyond. And this webinar will talk about the report, the use case of that, share some of the insights, and then have a really in-depth discussion about the report and the future of the sector with a really prestigious panel. So if you could have the next slide, please, Andy. I'll just talk through the agenda as it stands for today. So we are in the introduction, housekeeping and speaker introduction, and then we will hand over to our authors, who I'll introduce in a moment, who will share their key insights from the report and what they feel that delivers that compelling narrative for our sector. And then we'll have a panel discussion, and I'll introduce our panel at the time. A really exciting panel, including the sponsors of the report, HSBC, as well as industry leaders and FMs really at the coalface of the FM industry. Then there's an opportunity for a Q&A, and I would ask that there is a Q&A function on your Zoom screen on the UI at the bottom on the right-hand side, just next to the share button. There is the Q&A box. You click on that and you can enter a question there, and my colleague Melissa or I will do our best to answer that or point it at a panelist to be able to answer those as well. And then we will be closing. We will definitely close for midday, 11:50, if not before. There is also a link to the report there where you can buy that or set up an appointment with my colleague Neil Everett, who'd be more than happy to talk you through the report and the benefits of that. So hopefully that makes a bunch of sense. So if you could have the next slide, please. We will talk through. There's myself. I'm the host, Andrew Glasson Heighton. Hello. I'm the interim head of policy and insight here at IWFM. A relative newcomer to the FM sector, but having had policy experience in the built environment and skills environment and local government beyond that. So this is really an exciting culmination of all of those different threads being drawn together. We're also joined by Mick Falloy, who is one of the co-authors of the report and the Director of Local Economy Solutions and a partner of the research practice, and Stuart Rutherford, who is the other report co-author and the partner of the research practice. So I'm going to stop yammering on now because you want to get into the actual meat of the report. So if we could have the next slide, please. I will hand over to my colleagues Stuart and Mick, who will talk you through their key insights for 15 minutes on the report. Over to you, Stuart and Mick, please.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. And hi, everyone. Andy, if we can move forward. So just to start with some basics about the new Market Intelligence Report. So first things first, it's different to other industry reports that you may have seen. The report contains genuinely new and essential insights about the workplace and FM, things that you won't find elsewhere. From beginning to end, the report has been designed around two key audiences, WFMs and FM service providers. We've selected insights, we've organized them, we've interpreted them, and asked ourselves the so what's through the eyes of WFMs and service providers. That's a key differentiator. We haven't forgotten about other stakeholders in the industry, so it will be of use to bankers, investors, governments, recruitment bodies, anyone with a stake in this industry, but primarily for WFMs and FM service providers. The report will be very important in supporting your organizational success if you're either a WFM or FM service provider. But more than that, it will also support your personal success. It will help you succeed in your current role and identify interesting areas for potential future roles as your career grows. We really have created something that is unmatched in breadth and depth of insight. And there's a lovely quote from IWFM Chief Executive Linda in some of the material that's been put out. And Linda says the sheer depth, breadth, and quality of this new insight is something I've never seen before. It could change the way operators in all parts of our industry assess opportunities, and it will provide vital reassurance to anyone involved in financing growth plans, building a business case, or working towards a market entry or an exit. So high praise indeed. If we move on, Andy, to the next slide. Let's look at a few other reasons why this report is unique. First up, and as Andrew mentioned, the main research input is IWFM's Market Outlook Survey, which we use each year for the Market Outlook report. Um, that survey is the largest survey of its kind in the market, bar none, with more than 400 responses each year. And in all honesty, we haven't been making full use of the insights from that survey until now. In the market intelligence report, we really squeeze it for insights, both providing new questions, answering new questions, and breakdowns of results by market segments. And what do I mean by market segments? So for WFMs, we start with by looking at the type of organization and breaking up their individual results. So we give results for WFMs working for private sector organizations, local government, central government, or third and or non-profit sectors. Um, but we also drill into the individual sectors within public and private. So within private, we provide results for construction, consumer, finance, ICT, manufacturing, and professional sectors. So you really have great visibility into the WFM market as a whole. And we also look at differences by size of WFM budgets. So we provide breakdowns of WFMs with different size budgets, all the way from less than 1 million to more than 100 million. And you'll find these segmental breakdowns right throughout the report, and that's a really important feature. Alongside the data and insights, you'll also be getting rich commentary and advice from many of the leading voices in the profession, including one of the panelists on this call. Andrew, thanks again for your input. And we've also drawn on the best external data sets from government to supplement that IWFM survey. We've developed proprietary models to support the analysis and forecasts. And the co-author Mick and I have drawn on our own industry knowledge and experience creating similar reports to really set a new standard. If we move to the next slide, Andy. I said earlier that we designed the report around the different audiences, WFMs and service providers. And to show you how that works, here's a screenshot of the executive summary describing what's inside and how to use it by audience. So for WFMs, you can benchmark your general and investment plans against your peers. You can see what your peers are prioritizing when it comes to their service providers. You can test out your outsourcing plans, both in terms of whether you want to do more or less, as well as the specific services that you're prioritizing when it comes to outsourcing. You can compare your purchasing criteria against the market and ask yourself, am I overestimating something or perhaps underestimating, neglecting a particular dimension? You can identify key trends in data and tech investment and see what technologies are really driving growth, where people are investing. And finally, you can help identify strategies to tackle thorny recruitment and skills issues. And if we flick to the right for service providers, you can identify market opportunities through outsourcing. You can identify recent FM sector trends, and we look at all manner of different dimensions. We look at trends within turnover, profitability, selling prices, employment levels, employment costs, M&A, investment plans. You can help identify strategies to mitigate against threats and exploit market opportunities. You can identify future FM you're really doing at a company level against your peers. And as with WFM, service providers can identify key trends in data and tech investments, identify strategies to tackle the recruitment and skills issues, And as with WFMs, we also provide segmental breakdowns for service providers. So we look at different sizes of service providers by their number of employees and essentially break down their answers by size. And we also break down their answers by whether they're integrated or bundled stroke single services. So again, you just get that wonderful visibility within the service provider level. And if we move forward. So in the next few slides, Mick and I would like to share some key findings with you from the report and also give you a sense of what else is in the report for those that are looking to buy it. I'll start with some key findings about WFMs before handing it over to Mick to talk about the service providers. One of the first things that we do in the report is to look at the change in WFM budgets, so whether they're increasing, decreasing, or staying the same, which is obviously all important for everyone. In the table at the bottom of the slide, we see how different organizational types fare in terms of changes to their WFM budget over the next 12 months. So what you see here is that growth is strongest in the private sector and central government in terms of WFM budgets. But we don't stop there. As I said, we drill into the private sector, and at that level, we find that the big sectoral winners are professional services, construction, and ICT. While in the public sector, the big winner is defense and security, where 58% of WFM budgets are expected to increase over the next 12 months. That's linked, obviously, to the ramp up in defense spending by the government and is a really significant finding. We also look at the size of organization, and while there are healthy increases across the board, it's the smaller organizations where the outlook is the most promising. So I hope that gives you a sense of the detailed picture that the report provides. And if we move forward. In the report, we go way beyond changes to the budget. We explore shifting patterns and investments. So what categories of spend WFMs are splashing cash on, as well as their future intentions when it comes to outsourcing. Ultimately, what we do is identify what we think are the most attractive WFM segments for sales targeting now based on the research. And this is one of the most important outputs from the report, an insight that you can really use within your organization. You can use it to formulate new targeting plans if you're a service provider, or test out existing ones and make sure that they're optimized. But if we narrow the focus here in the rest of the slide just to the outsourcing intentions for the next 12 months, encouragingly, what we found was pockets of outsourcing opportunities right across the board, with 25% of central government WFMs looking to outsource more, 27% of local government, 30% of third or non-profit sector WFMs, and 36% of private sector WFMs. We went on to ask those that are planning to outsource more what services they wanted, what services they were prioritizing, really to put our finger on the hot services within our market. And the top pick is building and workplace maintenance, or building services engineering, so the hard services side. That's the number one selection, both for private sector and third non-profit sector. And one of the experts that we interviewed explained that this is obviously linked to the general shortage of technical expertise, as well as a growing recognition of greater compliance requirements in that particular area. For local government and central government, the service most in demand is catering and hospitality. So there may be an interesting opportunity there for some, although talking to somebody in government, catering and hospitality are often quite different services with quite different dynamics. So bear that in mind. It's also noteworthy here that energy management, stroke, other environmental sustainability services, and heat decarbonisation renewables place well. We know and have seen that several FM service providers have been very active in developing propositions in this area. And this finding absolutely reinforces the opportunity that exists here. It's a live burning opportunity for those that haven't moved in that particular area. If we move on to the next slide. So having identified the most promising segments in the report, and I haven't detailed them all quite deliberately, so leaving some goodness there for those looking to buy the report. Um, we also explore WFM purchasing criteria. So what factors WFM see as the most important when selecting service providers? Essentially, so service providers can target WFMs more effectively. And the results of that question are shown on the right-hand side here. Quality of service is the most important criteria, perhaps as you'd expect, mentioned by 3 in every 5. And it's followed fairly closely by price, which is mentioned by 2 in every 5 WFMs. Now, price has always been a particular concern within the FM space and can create tension when put together with the goal of providing the best quality service. When we interviewed Andrew, he suggested that the third most important factor, the good account management or communication, can go some way to reconciling the tension between quality of service and price, where you're trying to find that genuine partnership. Um, some of you will no doubt smile to see the fourth and the fifth criteria together. So specialism and service area and multi-service offering and total solution. They're obviously interesting chart companions and speak to some quite specific and different client preferences, which again, we tried to capture in the report. So in addition to this, we do indicate WFM preferences for integrated, bundled, and single service providers, and whether you can kind of get through the door. So very interesting stuff at a WFM level, and I'll now pass on to Mick to talk about the service providers.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Can we have the next slide? In addition to work on WFMs, we undertook extensive analysis of FM service providers using a combination of available secondary data and IWFM survey findings. And the analysis indicates that the FM sector is a major contributor to the UK economy. And in particular, it generates approximately 108 billion in business turnover annually, 65 billion in gross value added. Turnover accounts for about 2.2% of the UK non-financial business economy and GVA about 3.9%. There are about 137,000 FM enterprises in the UK, and that represents roughly 5% of all UK enterprises. And FM activities account for about 1.2 million jobs, or almost 4% of all employment in Great Britain. And the report explores the contribution of the sector further by detailed subsector. Can we move on to the next slide? We also looked at long-term growth trends, and our analysis indicates that the sector has outperformed average UK growth over the last decade across a number of key performance indicators. And in particular, since 2010, the importance of FM to the wider economy has grown in relation to turnover, GVA, and purchases of goods, materials, and services, as set out in the graph on the slide. Long-term growth in both numbers of FM enterprises and FM employment has also outstripped the average for all sectors. And again, the report drills down in much more detail and explores these longer-term trends by detailed subsector. And then if we can go on to the next slide. And in terms of more recent performance, this is a little more mixed. FM service provider turnover growth remains strong and employment growth continues, but margins remain very tight. Investment levels have held up or increased, with investment in technology particularly strong. And there are also encouraging signs in relation to both space managed and workspace investment. But employment costs continue to rise, partly driven by recent employer national insurance increases, and cost of supplies also continue to increase. And in response, service providers are not passing on all these full cost increases to customers, but trying to absorb or partially offset them, hence continuing very tight margins. The best recent performers measured against 8 financial investment and other performance indicators have been the largest employers and those offering integrated services. The worst performers have been the smallest organisations and those with a bundled or single service offer. And the report explores these and other issues in much more detail, but also includes a unique benchmarking tool. And this is based on 8 performance indicators included in the IWFM survey and provides a practical basis for FM service providers to measure their own performance over the last year against those of their peers. When we would argue this can be a very useful tool for individual companies. And finally, another feature of the report is that we've developed new short-term forecasts for the FM sector for the period 2025 to 2027 for turnover, GVA, and employment. So that's a very brief synopsis of the Market Intelligence Report, but I'll now hand you back to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Mick and Stuart. Can we move on to the next slide and then again, please, Andy? Thank you very much. Yes, so a lot to digest there. It paints a picture of a sector where there are challenges, but also underlines the importance of the WFM sector to the UK economy. And regardless of whichever sector the government picks for growth, a WFM is going to be involved in facilitating that growth. So I'd love to introduce you now to our panel. A really, really interesting panel here, and I'm going to shut up in a moment because you want to hear from folks far more informed than myself. So in no particular order, we have Rob Brand, who is the head of business services sector at HSBC UK, and HSBC have very kindly sponsored this report, and may want to talk more once we've done the introductions about their thinking behind this report and the value of it to their customers. We're also joined by Pauline Simpkins, who is the chair of IWFM Members Council and a non-executive director, as well as being an active and vocal advocate of WFMs in sort of the historic building sector, working with a very challenging and varied estate, I think it's fair to say, Pauline, in terms of your work. And Andrew Hulbert, who is the new IWFM chair and the founder and vice chair of Pareto FM and a serial entrepreneur and startup enthusiast. So we'll have some very interesting insight from the sort of more macroeconomic analysis of this report. So colleagues, that is your panel. Please do feel free to enter a question into the Q&A box as we go, as we are joined by this. So if I could kick off just while colleagues on the call, colleagues attending the call are thinking about their questions. Rob, just to turn to yourself, I know we've talked extensively about HSBC and kind of where you see the FM sector from HSBC's point of view with your sort of business services sector head on. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you for offering us the chance to sponsor this report. It's really, really insightful. Lots of interesting takeaways, I think, for FM businesses to help get your head around, what are the buyers of our services looking for? Therefore, where are the opportunities? And there are so many to be looking for. I mean, my personal view of the FM space is it's been having a really good year in 2025, and there's several sort of strong tailwinds behind that. I think firstly is a continued desire of organizations to be lean and to be focused on what they're good at. And that involves, therefore, outsourcing elements that you're not so good at or where you don't have the specialization. And that really then plays into what FM does best. I think two other points I'll make, and then I'll hand back to you. The first is, and we touched upon this in the report, but the commercialization opportunity around the sustainability challenge. And what I mean by that is that there are a lot of businesses with their estates and they are crying out for that expertise that FM providers can bring in terms of telling them, what is the impact of our estate, and also sharing best practice. Because FM has a fantastic view across numerous different clients. And, that is, for me, one of the key things that they can do and add to their clients and add to that communication that Andrew talked about in terms of, look, we're seeing this here. What about over here? And then I think the second piece, and this comes out in the report as well, is just around sort of the maintenance, the hard FM aspect. So difficult to do internally and to do it well internally. And so that's a real key theme we continue to see with, FM firms, the good ones having really good sticky revenues, predictable cash flows. That's what investors really want to see. So really exciting time for the FM space.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. Turning to yourself there, you manage a challenging estate with various assets of varying age and maintenance quality. How is it from that hard FM? How is it from that sort of coalface point of view? Does the report reflect what you're seeing? And just interested to hear your insight as someone who really is at the cutting edge.
Well, I read the report and I resonated a lot with the WFM side of life. And often I've found in reports like this in the past is I can't really feel myself. It feels as though it's more private sector orientated, whereas this I felt was much broader, so I could really see where some of that government and public sector features were really coming forward a lot more for me. So I think it was Stuart said in his opening slides there about splashing the cash, and I'm still trying to just dream of a world where that was even possible, rather than kind of living from one spending review to another. And that's kind of the challenge that we have, I think. And I'm not just speaking from a historic England perspective, but I think perhaps from a slightly broader public sector perspective, you want to invest in the estate, but the spending cycle is quite short, and actually to do some of them more long-term, make some of those more long-term inroads, especially with some of the decarbonisation and the sort of more long-term renewal maintenance, it's actually really quite difficult to plan and deliver that stuff on such a short cycle. So it was really interesting to really feel that somebody got that and to see it laid out, because obviously this is going to be really important to the provider side and understanding those challenges that we're facing. So, if we're really trying to drill into the compliance side of life, it's understanding, what that feels like from our perspective. And it was really great to actually see a bit of me in this, broad and strategic, but yet quite specific report.
Thank you very much, Pauline. Yeah, you identified a number of challenges there, which I'm sure resonate with colleagues on the call. Andrew H, peek behind the curtain here, colleagues. There are three Andrews on this call, so it can get confusing very quickly. So, Andrew Hulbert, from your point of view, service providers, how are the offerings being adapted to the increasing demand for outsourcing, and also as an addition, and responding to the new challenges? Pauline highlighted sustainability there, but there is also new technology. I'd be interested to hear your point of view on that as someone who's always thinking in these broad strategic terms.
Yeah, look, I think the report actually, the first thing that really struck me is this fact that there are 125,000 service providers within the facilities management sector. Now, that is incredible when you think about the opportunities for business to thrive within a sector. And I think, as chair of IWFM now, I get to sit in a more strategic position to think about this. Sometimes as FMs, it can be difficult for us to justify people just how important our job is and what we're here to do. This is a £100 billion a year sector for the UK, which do not underestimate. That is absolutely enormous. and hiring 1.2 million people within the UK as well. We are critical to UK PLC, and the report really highlights that with the wording from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, in terms of what they've brought in. As service providers, I think the challenge is the recent change in the national minimum wage and the recent change in the national insurance contributions as well. They continue to put price pressure on various areas of the supply chain, not only the team members that we hire ourselves, but also the team members of the subcontractors that we use too. So for me, there is continued cost pressure on service providers. And it's a very difficult challenge for them around how much can they charge back to the customer morally, and how much do they need to in terms of to continue to maintain sustainable margins to continue as an organization. So I think the report really looks at that in some quite interesting detail. But I'm really happy to see that things like quality of service, still ranking above price point from a customer perspective around why they're buying services. And whilst that remains, the sector should really be supporting organizations that are delivering better and delivering more innovative solutions, because that's what the customers are looking for. And again, the report highlights in really quite some detail around where the opportunities are from that too. And also, and I always come back to it because it's such a critical thing, we continue to see sustainability as one of the most important aspects of the facilities sector. Whether that is from service providers providing expertise to customers, or whether that is customers needing to understand it themselves. And I think on one of the recent IWFM surveys, 4 of the top 5 things that are most important is sustainability, from utility purchasing to how much energy we're using, decarbonisation, and everything that goes with it. So these highlight key aspects of what service providers are facing within the sector. And there is just so much more to go at. But I'm just blown away that we can finally sort of understand the scale of what we're delivering here as a group of facilities and workplace professionals. And yeah, lots more information in the report to see too.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, the scale of the sector was really quite astounding to behold, and as you rightly say, the voice that the FM sector, the difficulty the sector faces is when things are going right, we're invisible, and it is almost like the opportunity to shout about the good we do and the value that is added to the economy by the great work that the folks around this virtual table and in the virtual room do. Rob, just to come to you, I'd really interested your perspective on this. I noticed in the report it said, and I'm not quoting directly here, but we seem to be at sort of, we're at the peak of the return to the office. Again, from a HSBC point of view, maybe internally or from sort of the portfolios you look after, how are you seeing that? And how have you seen sort of the user experience of the office being maximized for office days or those office-based staff? I think you're on mute, Rob, sorry.
That old classic. I didn't think I'd hear that for a while. HSBC, like a lot of sort of financial organizations and city-based organizations, has been on a journey around, obviously, during the peak of COVID, it was work from home, and we were fortunate that we were able to continue working and continue to deploy monies out to businesses that really needed it through a variety of schemes. Roll on sort of 12, 24 months later, and actually I think people were really starting to miss the collaboration and the need to work together, share ideas of coming back into the office, and also, frankly, being able to go out and meet with clients again face to face, because that's the best bit of any service job, be it banking, legal, or FM. So yeah, we've definitely seen that in terms of more people now coming back into the office. And when I'm in London, Birmingham, Manchester, you're definitely seeing those city centres becoming busier, and that's helping in all manner of businesses and commerce, but FM, yeah, particularly. So when I'm speaking to clients, it's really they've been able to help their their clients on that journey in terms of, one, the criticality of ensuring that workplaces are clean and germ free. Two, then helping their clients, or helping corporates to be able to communicate that, because there was a lot, especially initially when you're going back through that journey of return to work, there's a whole piece around communication with staff. How do you make staff feel comfortable about coming back in? How do you make them feel, it's safe to come back in? Change is strange. How do you make people feel, actually, yeah, I do miss some of those, positives of being back in the office. So I think, again, this comes back to sort of twofold. One, it's obviously an opportunity for FM, because the more offices are used, generally speaking, there's more maintenance going on, there's more planning going on. I think, two, also there's that whole comms piece in terms of helping your clients. What's the strategy of getting people back into the office? How do you help your clients spread it so it's not just everybody in on a Tuesday and Wednesday, nobody's in on a Monday and Friday? Helping your clients identify those patterns and to think through those patterns as to what they can do. So there's a whole lot of value add there, in addition to just the general pickup in business of having those sort of strategic dialogues with around the board table with your clients in terms of how can you help them achieve their aim. So yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. Just a reminder, colleagues on the call, should you want to ask our panel a question, please do click the little Q&A box on the bottom of your user interface on your Zoom window and type your question in there, and we'll pick it up. Whilst folks are thinking of their questions, Pauline, just to come to you, really interested. A lot of the sort of estate you look after is in the public sector, or looked after by the public purse. How is the public sector broadly leveraging WFM to support goals such as sustainability or regional development? Do you have any sort of good case studies or even bad examples of where that's not occurring?
The whole decarbonisation area at the moment is kind of slightly up in the air. I'll speak for myself on this one, in so much as we were gearing up to put in a bid for the Salix funding, so which has now, they've stopped giving out new grants now, so they'll follow through on phase 3 and 4 projects, but there's no further funding at the moment. So that is a slight fly in the ointment. So it, throughout this report, it did make me think that perhaps there are opportunities to actually look for slightly innovative, funding models to work with organisations that perhaps they don't have the upfront capital, but there are opportunities to make savings through decarbonisation schemes, to really help if we're serious about the issue collectively. There's something needs to give, and I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to have those discussions, and it's certainly something that I'm trying to do with some of our service providers. I don't really know if that answers the question for you, Andrew, but can I ask a question of the panel? I don't know if that's allowed, but Rob.
Please do. Mario, we have seen your question in the chat, so we will get to that, but Pauline, please go ahead.
Rob, sorry to go backwards, but you're saying about the Mondays and Fridays are quiet and the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays a bit. Have you cracked that? Have you? Just asking for a friend.
Yes. So again, speaking personally for HSBC, it's definitely been on a journey. But yeah, I would say the offices now are feeling sort of busier now on a Monday and busier on a Friday. It's still not as busy.
Okay.
So but it's noticeable. It is noticeable now.
I'll give you a shout afterwards. That's another
Yes,
webinar.
yeah. I mean, personally, I really like coming in on a Monday because it the weekend's over. I want to start my work week the right way. I come in and it's boom, I'm there.
Fascinating. And as you say, Pauline, possibly a subject for a future webinar
Yeah.
here. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Just to ask a question that's come in from one of the delegates, and I'll throw this question out there, and whoever's quickest to the post can jump in first. So, what is the panel's view on the integration of AI within the FM sector? Are we strong in this space or not? And then, as a sort of supplementary, how do they see AI being integrated with our amazing teams? And I love that because it acknowledges that AI doesn't supplant people, it supports people. So, yeah, does anyone have a view on that?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. So I think AI, albeit still in its infancy, is just growing at such an incredible rate on a week by week basis, if not day by day. So things we were talking about 6 months ago are already irrelevant, and actually it's all about what's next. AI is never going to replace the role of what facilities and workplace professionals do, because until the robots are running around and maintaining assets on our behalf, we're still going to need people to do that and control everything as well. What AI is going to hugely improve is our ability to understand assets, understand vibrations in assets that may lead to failure, understand why things are operating in a way that they are, improve energy efficiency, increase BMS efficiency. There is all of those things that make it possible. The challenge the sector has at the moment is because this is so new, we don't have any experts in AI at this stage. There aren't an enormous amount of experts in AI genuinely across the world. So we have to continue to learn from those that are progressing very quickly. But there are apps now, AI-led apps, where you can just put a prompt in that says, build me an app that does this asset management piece. And within 2 or 3 minutes, you have an entire app built that you can then change to meet your needs. So for me, we have to embrace it, and it's the opportunity that workplace and FM has to embrace it, but it will never replace the tacit knowledge that comes in someone's brain of being in a workplace environment and understanding why certain things happen, and also taking into account the emotions and feelings of the people that work within those spaces. AI is not brilliant at emotions, and it's going to be difficult for it to get to that point. But we all know if someone's feeling a certain way about something they're not happy with within the workplace, sometimes there are certain emotional steps you have to take to rectify that. And there is always going to be that power within the workplace and facilities management teams that we have.
Yeah, I get a sense that AI is going to be brilliant when things are ticking along nicely. I am not sure how AI will respond when the what's-it's hitting the fan. And I would really want to massively, delve into what AI is recommending before I sprung into action. So that sort of dynamic on the feet, is it going to take me just as long to plug in what is going wrong here before I get the answer out? So I agree with you, Andrew, 100%. And you're absolutely right. We are a people-centered profession, and we can't get away from that. So, and why would we want to? So if it takes some of the grunt and grind away from analyzing spreadsheets and, checking spelling or whatever it is, that's 2 very extreme examples, but it can only be a good thing because it means we can focus on the really important things and bring a lot more benefit, those intangible things, into the workplace.
Yeah, no, I think those are really good examples, actually, Pauline. Those two, you've given. Microsoft, are one provider. I know they call their AI product Copilot, and that's very deliberate because you are the pilot, and AI is there to help you, to enhance you, to make your job more efficient, and hopefully make your job more enjoyable. So I do think there's definitely a really strong place in FM for AI. My suggestion would be you start small. You don't have to go big bang. Uh, Identify the risks around, particularly around sharing information and GDPR, because that's crucial. And then be business led. So look at the use cases. Where have you got people, as you say, Pauline, inputting data into spreadsheets or copying something from this spreadsheet into this Word document? Those types of roles, which aren't frankly enjoyable. Most of us save them for a Friday afternoon, don't we? And actually identify those, because those are hopefully going to be the quick wins. as you get to grips in your organization to using AI. So I think those would be my suggestions.
That's yeah, and make your Friday in the office more enjoyable, Rob, as well. Having your AI co-pilot helping you out there. I like that. Just another call. If anyone has any final questions they would like to ask our panel, please do submit them now. That last question was a lovely question, and I think we've got three very interesting answers there, but a broad agreement of the direction of travel. If I may say in closing, just a question to throw out to the panel. The report does look forward and does some sort of horizon scanning in terms of where the sector is going. We may have touched on this previously, but what do you folks think is the next big thing coming down the pipe in WFM, or in terms of challenges or in terms of opportunities? And happy for anyone to jump into that.
I'll go. Then.
Thank you, Pauline.
Go on.
So I guess by way of sort of reflection, the challenges that both WFMs and the service providers are experiencing, I just found it really fascinating to have that further insight into what my colleagues on, it's not the other side, we're all totally together, but are really experiencing. And I did get the feeling, I sort of went full circle. I did the roller coaster where I thought, oh my goodness, given what I'm reading here, I'm a very unattractive contract potentially for a WFM provider. But then reading about the sort of breadth and the size and the diversity across the whole of the service provider sort of arena, that then actually made me feel really good that there's so many opportunities to work with perhaps a much smaller local organization, and then so I use bundled, I use direct, and we use a TFM. So we've got the whole gambit. So yeah, I did sort of think, oh my goodness, what is going to happen here? But actually, it did give me quite a bit of comfort through the opportunities that I can see where we can really work with people in partnership with providers. We need to recognize that, you making a profit, you succeeding is a great thing. We want you to succeed. And I think there needs to be that sort of awareness that we're sometimes working in a very dynamic arena. And what I don't need is somebody running up to me with a contract. So it's not in the contract. It's like, but I'm just looking for a reasonable, approach to the environment we're working in. That is what I would really like. So I went full circle from, oh my God, to hooray, I know what to do now. So I guess that's kind of like my reflection on my future.
Fantastic. Thank you, Pauline. Rob or Andrew, anything else you'd like to add?
Well, if I go next and then Andrew perhaps can go last and help sum it up as IWFM chair. But from HSBC, we're really enthusiastic around the FM space. I think the outlook is positive in terms of what I'm seeing, what I'm speaking to clients around. I think we've touched upon some really exciting things on this call today, particularly around AI. And that, for me, that applies for both larger FM organizations and smaller FM organizations in terms of helping firms present data and analysis back to their clients in terms of were you aware of this, were you aware of that. So for me, AI is a bit of a leveler, because you don't need you won't need sort of scores of graduates pouring through data and producing fancy spreadsheets. You'll be able to get AI to do a lot of that, with you then overviewing, is this right, does this make sense, and then doing the presenting. So I'm really excited about the outlook for the sector.
Thank you, Rob. Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, just to echo that, I think there is still a huge amount of investment interest within the facilities and workplace profession. Look at the deals that have been happening over the last 5 years or so. Even OCS merging with Interserve. These are absolutely enormous private equity deals that are putting tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, into the sector. And I think that will continue as the landscape gets more challenging around how to organically grow for service providers, and competition continues to grow around price, as we've seen in the report. There will be merger and acquisition activity is a way that all bigger organizations can grow quite steadily by just buying more and more of the smaller providers and seeing that consolidation. And we're certainly seeing that within the sector. And as I think has been said already, investors enjoy this sector because it's recurring revenue. It's not very spiky like our counterparts in construction, where turnovers go up and down quite consistently. So I think that will continue to be seen. And organizations like HSBC, they're funding huge parts of this as well in making this possible. And the banks are interested in what we're doing. So for me, I think that just gives a very positive outlook for where we're going, and just creates lots more opportunities for growth and innovation and implementation of technologies, as we've mentioned. So yeah, it looks bright. And this report helps to just justify why those things are bright and how we can progress forward from here. And I'd just like to publicly say thank you to HSBC for their support on this piece of research as well. It's been hugely important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you very much, panel. I think a real wide-ranging discussion there, and a really insightful view into the future. If we could have the next slide, please, Andy. Speaking of the report, I will leave this on the screen for a moment, and I believe the recording and the slides will be accessible afterwards should you miss these QR codes. But there are two QR codes there. So the first being to book a call with my colleague Neil, who can talk through the report and how best it can work for you. And then if you just wish to purchase a copy as well, the second QR code is there. So I'll just leave those on the screen while I just publicly thank everyone for their questions and insight, and thank our panel, Rob, Pauline and Andrew. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time and your brilliant answers to my questioning. And if we could have the next slide, please, Andy. Opportunity to network with our panel at our forthcoming IWFM Impact Awards 2025. There's an opportunity, I know I will be there, as will our panelists, an opportunity to celebrate everything we've talked about today, and also discuss with key stakeholders some of the issues we've talked about today, as well as just have a nice time and have a glass of bubbles with our colleagues around here. So I look forward to seeing all of you there. And if I may have the next and final slide, please, Andy. Thank you so much to everyone for attending. I've been Andrew Gladstone-Heighton, the Interim Head of Policy and Insight here at IWFM. Really excited to launch this report. You can hear the insight that it offers and the value that it has. So please do reach out to myself or any of my colleagues at IWFM for further interest. But other than that, thank you, panel, and thank you, colleagues. I can give you 7 minutes of your morning back. Thank you so much. Goodbye.